to Modern Motherhood Folklore, where we read blogs and blogs in the style of small chapters pertaining to motherhood and the relatability of it. So, in this one, I'm going to talk about the morning I cried over a full blender because it wasn't about the blender and it wasn't about it being full. So, this particular morning, I'm trying to make, I think it was a smoothie. I can't even remember what was in it. The blender that we had was pretty good, not top of the line. We had had it for a few years. Its blades were, so-so. It definitely blended things very slowly. It was probably too full, too thick, especially for what I needed it to do at the time. But I was short on time. I was short on energy. I was just short on a whole bunch of things. And I just needed it to blend the stuff. I just needed it done so that I could move on. My kitchen was small, it was cramped, it was crowded, it was cluttered, there was no counter space, all the different C's that we need. Um, I didn't have the dishes that I needed because the kitchen was just so small and cramped. I hadn't gotten around to being able to wash everything in the way that it needed to be. And I think we had something come up that was cramping us on time. It was one of those last minute things that I hate, but they come up all the time. I just needed this thing to blend and it wouldn't blend. And I added, extra water and I chopped things up even smaller and I took things back out of the blender and threw them in a bowl so that I could blend them at another time so it wouldn't be so full. And this thing just wasn't blending. And after about the second or third attempt to make it work, which does sound pitiful, but it was just that kind of day. I literally broke down and it had nothing to do with the blender. It did have a lot to do with the kitchen and it had a lot to do with how life was going at that moment. And the blender not blending was the catalyst. Everything else had just been building up and the dam broke and the blender not blending is what set me off. And no one got it. No one understood. My kids were just, "Oh, mom, don't cry. It's okay." My husband was like, "It's just a blender." That wasn't the point. And they didn't get it, even when I tried to explain it, because they weren't the mom going through, "I need to get my kids fed and I don't have enough time." And what I'm blending doesn't even have, all the stuff that I want in it. And this isn't even a healthy meal. And I'm going to get to this thing late with my kids and everyone's going to wonder how come I'm not organized enough. And um, how could I have been so stupid to try and blend something that obviously wasn't going to blend anyway? And how come I didn't have, stuff in my fridge as a reserve that we could eat, quickly on the go? How come I didn't have that kind of planning and forethought? Um, these are things that I think are purely uniquely in a mom's mind all the time. And also, I think in a person's mind who grows up with that kind of expectation that they're always supposed to be prepared and they're always supposed to be ready and they're always supposed to plan for the inevitable. Um, which, hi, who else has anxiety now? Uh, and I think that if you don't go through that, and I never want my kids to go through that, they're never going to understand it. And it's probably a purely uniquely, well, obviously a person who has to go through that to go through it. But I think it's also purely uniquely a mom thing to go through because we take care of everything. And there's just that expectation that we're going to take care of it. So when something doesn't work, how come we didn't have the foresight to think about that? But how are we supposed to be prepared for everything when we don't even know what can happen? So the day I cried over a blender not blending had nothing to do about the blender. It had nothing to do about the food that wasn't blending either. It was all about the circumstance and it happens. And mama, if it happens to you, take a moment, cry it out, try to explain it if you want. Probably nobody's going to get it other than the other moms. But hopefully, if you find the story and you hear it and you listen to it, you know you're not alone. I've cried over laundry falling out of my hands because I was just so exhausted. It was my one accomplishment for the day and it fell out of my hands and it unfolded itself. And I didn't have the energy to get down and pick it up and refold it, even though it was probably 2 pairs of pants and a shirt. So, we're gonna cry over things, and it's totally okay, and if anybody wants to judge us for it, they need to put themselves in our shoes before they can do so.